She's not a particularly nice person. I think she's a good mother, but I think she's a very self-centered, self-serving person, as so many housewives are. But I don't mind her on the show because she gives us good television. It's not that I'm watching her like, oh, she's the best, I want to hang out with her, right? But she's like a Ramona. Like, I like Ramona more, actually. I think there's something more endearing about Ramona. I just think that Vicky is icky. Welcome to Cocktails and Gossip, the podcast where we drink cocktails, but you better believe we're going to spill the tea. We chat reality TV, celebrity blinds, and the hottest tea from BravoandCocktails.com. And as always, it's all alleged and just for fun. We do not verify our blinds. I'm B.
And I'm Amanda. Let's get into this week's tea.
What's up, cocktail party?
Hi, B. I like it because it's not like we haven't just been talking for 10 minutes before this, but you know.
First of all, you know what we should start doing is we should just start taping our cocktail party from the top.
You're right, because
we're so dopey.
The stuff that we talk about, I know. I totally agree. And hey, cocktail party, I haven't said hi to you guys yet. So we also just wanted to let you guys know a couple things. First of all, this week will be the first week that we are doing the quicker release of the pod. So we're looking forward to getting everyone's feedback about that. But then second of all, we are in quite the week this week. Both of us have like people working in our houses right now. So B is in a different location than usual. I am in my closet as usual.
I was going to say, I'm having work done on my house, so, we just got to roll with it. I mean, not much we can do. And listen, I am telling you right now, I am planning on doing a sort of, I want to call it a podcast studio, but I don't want to sound fancy because it's probably not going to be fancy, but like I have a very small room in my house that isn't a closet that I think I'm going to try to convert as like a summer project. Don't we all have high hopes for things we're going to get done? And then the summer comes and goes, but I'm going to try to get it done.
All I have to say is if I had a pool in my backyard, there would be no summer projects happening.
That's why every year, September, I have a lighter load in the summer. My work schedule is lighter in the summer, so it affords me time that I mostly spend at my pool.
I would be right there if I could be. Okay, let's start with Jersey because we got so much good info coming out about the reunion that was a week ago. We've all been hearing and then you've been posting a lot about the stuff that went down. Tell us a little bit about that tea you got.
So this is really crazy. A follower, and everyone was writing like, oh, we know it's Melissa, we know it's Marge. As God is my witness, a follower who happens to be, and I'm not going to out who she is, an influencer. So she's an influencer who lives in Manhattan, happened to be like outside of her building and they film on her block apparently. So she sends me a message and she is like, oh my God, I just came upstairs to my apartment. I saw Louis chain smoking outside. He must be on a break from filming. He was with Nate, Danielle's husband, who looked completely and utterly shell-shocked, like just stood there like mouth agape. Louis was screaming into his phone, Dolores. Now, this was before the men came on stage, and I know this because it was all happening in real time. And at a few minutes prior to her messaging me, Andy had posted a video saying something to the effect of, oh, here comes Joe. Let me go. I want to talk to him. So I knew it hadn't went down yet because, Amanda, I don't know if we read this last week, but I think it's worth covering the Pignoli cookie email. Do you want to read it?
Yes, definitely. Okay. From Pignoli Cookie. The behind the scenes leading up to the Real Housewives of New Jersey reunion is all out war. And not just the Teresa versus Melissa of it all. This reunion is going to be a bloodbath. Some of you aren't aware or expecting someone that you aren't aware of or expecting is very upset right now with her longtime friend. It's not unfathomable to try to say that word. Unfathomable. What a good word. That two longtime friends may no longer be after the reunion. Also, potentially big bombs.
So it was worded as if Dolores was mad. Now, what I now know, and what we now know based on what we've heard and emails we've been sent, is that I think that Louis got word, and I'm not saying he got word necessarily from my blind, although I know he loves a good Bravo and cocktail scroll. Who doesn't? He may have got word just because it was buzzing around the cast, right? That Frank Sr. was going to go in and bring up the fact that something went down with Frankie's employment. And we've heard different accounts, right, Amanda? We've heard that it was like an issue of basically the kid was going to work every day and then the rent wasn't paid and the job was just over. Apparently, Frank did say it. Now, I don't know whether Dolores, it doesn't appear that Dolores is upset with Louis. What I will say is it makes complete sense to me that Dolores wouldn't make it a thing because her son is a young professional in the business world. Why would she on national television want to discuss an issue with his former employer? It's not a good look for his new job, right? I certainly wouldn't want to put my son or anybody in that position. And Frank may see it differently. Frank may see it like, this guy's a fraud and it won't affect his work and people should know what he did. There was more to it though. It wasn't just that he brought that up. He also brought up the PR stuff. So Frank and others like Marge, Melissa, accused Louis at the reunion of hiring a PR firm.
Which we've been hearing a little bit about for the last, I don't know, I feel like few weeks because I think at one point there was a suspicion that it had happened because of all of the social media activity being at like an all-time crazy high.
And then the cast received a gag order. The words I heard from a source were Louis was dragged like a whore in a brothel. Direct quote from a source. So there were these claims about the PR firm to get bad press out on Melissa, Marge, Frank as well. Names were dropped. Like so of course Louis and Jen and, the other side accused them being Marge, Melissa, of working with accounts, right? We know that Marge bought the pizza oven from Your Moms Are Watching, which did not make it to the reunion. Of course, Melissa Gorga had me on her podcast. So they're saying, I've been very clear. I was clear on Melissa's podcast. I don't work for anybody except myself and with Amanda. But those were the accusations thrown out. That is why there was a gag order, because there were accusations on both sides. I know that Bravo and Cocktails was mentioned. I know Your Moms Are Watching was mentioned. I'm sure other accounts were mentioned. However, my suspicion is since they want this whole gag order and they want to shut this kind of stuff down, I think they're just going to bleep it and be like the bloggers, right?
Yeah. Or not, yeah. We'll see. But they want to mention bravoandcocktails.com. They're welcome to.
Please do. We would like the traffic.
We would. I also heard that Jen Aydin was uncharacteristically quiet because I think it was Melissa who once pointed it out that Jen Aydin usually kind of comes out almost like she's playing a character at the reunions.
Yes. She's usually a pistol, unhinged at reunions and goes really deep in. But apparently she was pretty nice to Melissa. She actually resolved some stuff with Marge. I do find it curious. And so after the reunion, when she went out for pizza, I didn't think it was because she was mad at Teresa. I don't think that at all. I, however, wonder what it is. Could it be that there is something that she was careful with them because she doesn't want it revealed? Could it be that there was some sort of deal brokered? I'm speculating. No one has told me this. I just find it curious. I am not saying that it's because she's turning on Teresa. I don't believe that. I do believe that there was a self-serving motive for Jen not to go in on them. And maybe part of it was that, who knows, Bravo may have said to her, like, you're so up Teresa's ass and you're so team Teresa, like, let her speak for herself. We don't know, but there had to be something.
Yeah, that if all of that ends up being true, that definitely doesn't sound right from her. And then, I watched her on Watch What Happens Live I was catching up on that last night, and she didn't by any means, she was still very clearly team Teresa, had Teresa's side on all of the shady games that Andy likes to play, but she also didn't go in on, I noticed she didn't go in on Marge and she didn't go in on Melissa.
She did not. Like we heard her support Danielle versus Rachel. But again, just more like, like, yeah, I agree. She was a very censored version of herself.
Or subdued. Yeah, she had no spice to her last night, I didn't think.
I think that another thing is that Teresa, I would imagine, is very unhappy because she spent the entire reunion, and we posted about this, saying, Melissa, you're done. I never have to see you again after this. Clearly, she was at that reunion assuming she was fired. There was so much chatter on Twitter that the Gorgers would be let go. I have to say, and it's funny because I saw on Twitter one of those pro Teresa accounts said that Louis actually begged Andy not to fire the Gorgas because he knows that it would affect their income. Well, I don't believe that that's why, but I don't doubt that Louis doesn't want them fired. Why would he? It distracts from his. Why would he want the spotlight on him? I don't know if the lawsuits were brought up, but we keep seeing all these lawsuits. I mean, they're court documents. His name's on them. His company is on them. So, if the Gorgas were to go, what would the focus be?
Right. I mean, I think you got a good point. I think what will be interesting is if Melissa comes back, I think all of them are feeling this kind of call and this pressure to resolve it, to, or at least be able to be civil. And that's now I'm like kind of where my mind is going is like, what does that look like? Because I don't think Melissa can turn it on to the point where she's like I love Teresa, and so is that just become like them just being pretty civil, and then when there's drama they make sure they just stay out of it when it comes to each other?
I think this most recent episode, because we have to keep in mind, this most recent episode, Pizza, the only thing that hasn't yet transpired is Melissa and Joe not going to her wedding. So that is what set Teresa off. But Pizzagate has already transpired. Melissa already knows about the cheating rumor. And that is why you see Teresa softening to Melissa. And I did find those moments sweet. But you do see that Melissa doesn't take the bait other than crying about the family, which again isn't just Teresa. It's her in-laws, right? And of course she loved them and all of that. But where Teresa's concerned, I think Melissa can continue exactly how we saw her this season, just being civil. I think, Teresa has said she watched back. I think them not attending her wedding, I don't know if Teresa can swallow it. And I think that it puts her in a position where if she can't, she's going to look like the bad guy because you're going to see Melissa just being very neutral, like not lovey-dovey, not going out on their own, but at group events, they're fine. And it could look something like, yeah, my sister and I, we have, because obviously they can't bring up there on a show. So Joe just says, listen, we hang out with the same people. She's there, I'm there. It's fine. We're not close. We're no longer close. I don't know that Teresa can do that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Well, and we know there's a Peaky Blinders party that happens at some point in between now. I mean, now meaning where the show is and the wedding. So we'll see what happens, but it definitely does set this up to be like, wait, something else has got to happen because it sort of feels like Melissa and Teresa are in an okay place coming out of Ireland because of that last day.
Well, yes, but you see Melissa holding back and you see Melissa like kind of resentful, like she didn't want Gino in the wedding. I believe that all stems from the cheating rumor, knowing that I think her whole demeanor with Teresa stems from Teresa informing Joe of this rumor without her present. That's what I've said, I keep saying it, but that's what I think. And because without knowing that, watching Melissa, you're like, wow, like Teresa's really softening. Like, can't she give in a little? But then with the knowledge that she went behind her back and told her husband, your wife's cheating on you with no proof other than Margaret's ex-best friend saying it.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Another thing we heard is that Jackie won't be back. Now, I don't think that means we won't see her at all. I think she'll still be at parties. I think Evan will be with the guys, but she's not a friend of. I hear Fressler is.
Yeah, I mean, based on this season, I that decision makes sense to me. I don't know. I guess we'll see. And then Danielle and Rachel, do we know much about if they're coming back yet?
Yes, they'll be back. All the full-time ladies will be back, is what I'm hearing, right? Bravo hasn't announced it. I have to say, I don't think either really made a huge impact. I do predict, though, that next season Danielle comes out guns a-blazing. She got her feet wet. She's going to be now and going, forward. She's going to be enjoying the financial rewards and the fame rewards of being a housewife. And she's been very transparent about how much she wanted that. So I think she's going to stir it up. I think whatever she's got to say about Margaret's arsenal and all that, I think Danielle is going to come out like Jen Aiden, come out like Marge. She's going to be a fantastic housewife. I think, I don't know if I see Rachel as more of a Melissa Gorga where she's enjoyable to watch, but she's not going to be this outrageous character.
Right. But she's also not afraid to stand up. She's no wet blanket either. And I was going to say, I actually feel like, well, we all know about the second season curse. Oh my gosh, are you okay? I can't see you, but I can hear your mic.
Guys, I'm going to take a picture of my setup because if I move an inch, my mic topples onto me.
No, I just sounded worse than it was. Anyway,
help! I've fallen and I can't get up.
I know, seriously. So with Rachel and Danielle, though, I feel like, there's the second season curse, right? Where they always say they get a nicer edit the first season. I don't know. I've been pretty impressed with them. I think they fill a very good role, too, of being able to be that kind of younger generation and that younger appeal to more of that younger audience as well. So I think that they both have a lot in store. And I think Rachel surprised me because I sort of was like, oh, she seems okay. But then she wasn't afraid to kind of ask some of the questions, as we know, about like Teresa and Melissa's kids talking and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I think they're both pretty interesting. I wanted to tell you, so I have an update for everybody on the divorce of Lisa and Lenny Hochstein from Miami. So if you didn't listen, we did a really deep dive on the prenup that Lisa signed. I want to say it was like a 19-page prenup. And so we did a deep dive on that in episode 38. So I'm not going to go back and cover, but headline is it was very one-sided, very preferable for Lenny. Like reading through this prenup, I was like, I don't think he ever actually took marriage to Lisa seriously, especially because there was a very, very small clause out of like the 19 pages. And don't quote me on the 19, but it was long. One very small clause about about if they were ever to have kids, which generally there's a lot more usually about in a prenup about kids and how that works and, if the marriage fails and that kind of stuff. And so it just, I don't know. I got the feeling that Lenny didn't really take it very seriously, but because it is so one-sided, it is very meager to Lisa, even after the fact that they have been married for almost 15 years. And having kind of read through it, that gave me a little perspective on why Lenny thinks he can just make Lisa leave the house within 30 days and just figure it out. So not that I'm saying that's right, but that's where that's coming from, because the prenup literally says, after the, one person declares that they want divorce, then Lisa has to get out of the house within 30 days. And so keep in mind, guys, just for some perspective here, they live in like, what is it, an $80 million house. I mean, they have, many cars, many staff, things like that. Um, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's important to note that because when I posted about this and the word only 8,000 was used, it's all relative, right? So I don't $8,000 is a lot of money for normal people like me. But when you're used to, I mean, $8,000, she could have a car lease that's that much. She spends that much going to the mall. So,
Right. And, we had some people saying like, that's, how much money I make a month or whatever. And like, that is not to denigrate that. It's just in this world that she has lived with, $8,000 a month is what this judge has ordered Lenny to pay. So, Page Six reported this, that these are court orders. And so with divorces, they can go all different kinds of ways, right? But generally the person that files kind of will, gets the process started. And then there is sometimes what's called a temporary hearing, where there's a temporary orders that are given by a judge, which it can be about custody, it can be about money, it can be about all different kinds of stuff. But that only holds until the couple kind of comes to a deal, or until divorce court is final and there are another, final orders with a judge. So this was a temporary order. And this judge ordered Lenny to pay $8,000 a month starting May 1st, not retroactively, for temporary support. He also ordered Lenny to maintain the status quo, which this is important, for Lisa and the kids, pay the kids tuition, extracurriculars, camps, etc., pay the health insurance, pay $60,000 of Lisa's $85,000 owed that she owes her legal firm. So the judge ordered Lenny to pay $60,000 directly to the firm. And then, like I said, all of this is in effect until Lisa and Lenny strike a deal or until the court issues another order. So in my mind, I think this is a really big win for Lisa, because while $8,000 a month might not seem even close to what she would need, having Lenny pay for all the kids' stuff, plus the majority of Lisa's legal fees, and then to use the words maintain status quo for Lisa and for the kids, I think that's a big deal. Having read this prenup the way that I did and seen that essentially the way it worked was like Lisa, the way that Lenny thinks it should work according to this prenup is like, once Lenny just says that the marriage is over, Lisa has to get out of the house and then he can pay her $2 million and that's it. Which, again, $2 million is a ton of money, a ton. However, in their world, that is nowhere near, what it would take to, quote unquote, maintain status quo. So I think this is a really big win, because the judge has now ordered for Lenny to start paying her monthly, all these things that were not included in the prenup. And so what that tells me is that this judge is saying, I see some issues with the prenup. So, we need to, say that we need to give her this X, Y, and Z. And I believe back in, I think it was January or December, when we had episode 38, I had mentioned, I'm like, gosh, it just feels like this prenup is so one-sided, and that there's only that little clause about the kids. It felt like a big weakness for me for Lenny, and a clear signal that he entered the marriage not taking it very seriously. So again, a judge coming out and ruling against this prenup. Guys, I am by no means a lawyer. I'm related to lawyers and I have friends who have gone through divorce. This is why I am saying what I know. But it's a big deal for the judge to come out and rule against the prenup, even only via temporary orders. And it's a signal to me that if they do go to court, the judge, and chances are it could be the same judge, may not uphold every detail of the prenup. So that feels like a pretty clear win to me so far. And we'll see what happens as they kind of, move forward. If that will make Lenny a little more interested in making a deal, or if they'll have to go all the way through and go to divorce court.
There's something glaring for me. The glaring thing for me is that the biggest sticking point in both the prenup and what we watched on the season is the housing situation. And I think, so I did the math on this as you were talking, $2 million payout, $8,000 a month works out to 20 years, okay? So I don't really think an $8,000. I think the win is, and you are absolutely correct, back when you did your deep dive into the prenup, when you indicated that the fact that there were no provisions for children means that he will likely be on the hook, and he is, and he should be. Fine. He'll have to pay tuition. If they want to do piano with the fanciest piano instructor, he'll have to do that. I also think those are his children and he doesn't mind putting the monies there. And perhaps that's why it wasn't in the prenup. We're not dealing with a stupid person. I'm sure he is a person who always intended to take care of his children regardless of when they were born. They weren't born at the time. So fine, the children are taken care of. Now, $8,000 a month is not her spending money if there's no housing included. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
And take away the house, because we know that house on Star Island, it's unlikely any judge is giving her that house because we know how opposed Lenny is to that. In most divorces, even when wives make out, if they live in a very expensive house, the husband is not expected to maintain that. They do have to give them. So I think that if they have to sell the house, if he can't afford to live on it and support her in this way, to live in it, excuse me, I think that him having to provide her with $5 million, or I don't know, I don't even know what the number is, but him having to provide her with a nice home in the neighborhood she's in that he pays for, plus the legal fees, plus the kids' activities, and then she gets $8,000 a month, that's a win. If that $8,000 a month, and we know she has a housewife salary, but if her salary and her $8K has to pay for her housing, that is not a win.
No, and I don't think so. So remember, this is temporary orders. And so I think she's still living in the house. So I think it's a win in that it is a signal overall that the judge does not think the prenup should entirely be held to, because the judge could have just gone and said, we must follow the prenup. And the judge didn't do that. And that's what I'm saying is a big win. I don't feel like for Lisa, it's probably a big win to get $8,000 a month, any of that. I think it's a huge win to know that the judge is saying, nope, I'm not going to go with what the prenup says for temporary orders. I feel like we need to, you guys need to dig in more. Like, we might need to see this in court if you guys can't make a deal. And I think that is the key win to me.
And the gross thing that I posted today is, as of this morning, Lisa was unaware my source tells me, when this Page 6 article came out, she was not aware of it. A different source said, this is a court document. This is what it is. You could read it. So this was leaked to the press prior to her being made aware of it. I don't know how that works with attorneys. I don't know the legalities of it. We do know that Lenny has gone to Page 6 from the very beginning. Remember, we saw it on Miami. He first denied they were getting divorced, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's gone to Page 6 multiple times. So Page 6 is somebody that works with him. So I don't know if it's a matter of, I told her attorney, and meantime, her attorney got an email, and by 8, we woke up, in New York time, this was posted at, 7 or 8 a.m. So is it like technicality where they legitimately put the story out so quick before Lisa's attorney can even see the email? You know what I'm saying? Like, we told you, we sent our email at 5 a.m. That story came out at 7 a.m. Not my problem.
Yeah, that is quite likely that that's, or Lisa's out of town, or she was in meetings or something all morning and hadn't checked, her email or picked up if her lawyer called. You never know. I mean,
Right.
wow. Gosh, that's really gross if that's what happened.
So gross. And the mistress has something in her profile on Instagram that's something like, divorce isn't bad, you just have to pay for it, or something nasty. She's so tacky. I can't. So, Amanda, this morning, bright and early, we see the Page Six article. And I can tell you that at the time that Page Six article came out, Lisa, according to my source, was not aware of this. So I reached out to another source who confirmed these are legal documents. Like, we looked into it, like, yeah, it's legit. Now, obviously, we know Lenny works with Page Six. He initially denied the divorce. We saw it on the most recent season that came out on Page Six. So I think that he called Page Six and he was like, print this immediately. He then had his attorney contact her attorney, and the story legitimately got printed within the same, within minutes of her attorney being informed. Because I imagine legally, she has to be made aware of the court's decision before he can put a story out. Now, the argument can be that Page Six is just constantly refreshing their browser for the Hochstein divorce case. But you and I both know that's bullshit. Somebody has to tip them off. I think we know who that somebody is. I think it doesn't surprise me. I mean, we've talked about Lenny at length and how he has handled this in my opinion, he handled this as if he had been cheated on and he had been left. Like, right? Like,
a lot of rage from him.
Like, I guess he just expected her to do what the prenup said and what he said and get lost, which is outrageous and disgusting. And his mistress is tacky, and she has some tacky thing in her Instagram bio about money's great, especially because it can pay for your divorce or some. Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's disgusting.
Really egregious. I'm pulling it up because.
Well, while you're saying this, like, when you said it this morning, because I was texting, I was like, oh my gosh, did you see this? I want to talk about it today because we did the deep dive. And, you're like, she's saying that she hadn't, she didn't know or whatever. I was trying to figure out, okay, if the scenario where Lenny calls and, tips him off, I just can't figure out what his motivation is. Like, just because I guess he just wants to stay in the top of the press.
Humiliation. He wants to humiliate her.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what it says. Whoever said money can't buy happiness never paid for a divorce.
Wow. That's just real classy from her. Real classy.
I mean, and who knows if it was him? Maybe it was her who tipped off the press. Her MO is humiliating Lisa. And that seems to be his MO. And I don't understand why. And I think Lisa said something at the reunion to the effect of, why doesn't he want to co-parent in a harmonious way? Like, who wants to be at odds with the mother of their children, their young children? I mean, they got a long road ahead of them.
Yeah, very long road. And every study out there says that the more contentious the divorce, the more long and drawn out, the more the parents fight in front of the kids, the more, there's just conflict in general, the worse it is for the children for their entire lives. So get it the fuck together, Lenny. I mean, my God. And I don't understand it.
But no parent goes into it thinking that it's their fault. So Lenny will be like, and we could have had a very harmonious divorce had she done what the prenup said she should do. And that'll be his response.
I'm sure it will be. But again, just give up, if it's really about money, like, make more, you can make more of it. You can't make more kids. Don't fuck your kids. Like, well, I mean, I guess you can, but you can't remake the 2 kids you have. Like, let's not mess them up for life.
Right.
Anyway, okay, so the OC trailer came out this week. What did you think?
I mean, finally, fans were like, I thought it was cute. I liked the little intro. Some people, some of the feedback was they didn't like it. What was glaring to me personally was all the chatter that we had posted and we had seen about Heather Dubrow and the trailer being delayed because of her and Terry. It kind of checks out. I mean, she was barely in it. So, the rumor was that she saw the trailer, she hated it. There were all sorts of swarming, cheating rumors, allegations that we heard were in the trailer. And we also heard that she called her lawyers and Bravo had to re-edit it. It kind of checks out because she really wasn't in the trailer much, and we heard that there was so much drama around her. So I guess we'll see how that plays out in the season. It's hard for me to imagine Tamara having an easy time sitting on this and not talking about it on her pod. I can't imagine that she doesn't get to it if it really is left out of the season. We do know that Tamara unfortunately dealt with the lawsuit with Jim Bellino and stuff she said on Heather McDonald's podcast. So she's probably knows how much people like that can really get you. And again, we were the first ones with the Vicky filming photo all those months ago, and she's back.
She's back. Well, I want to talk about Vicky in a second, but back to Tamara. I listened to Two T's in a Pod, and I think she said on air, she can't talk about her own season. Teddy can talk about it. Teddy can ask maybe her questions or bring on other housewives, but I guess part of their deal is like Tamara can't really talk much about it. And so, we'll see where that line is, because I was listening this week and they were talking about something else that we'll talk about here in a second. But, the other thing, as you were saying that about why the trailer was delayed, the other thing that has never added up to me is, remember, I don't know, about a month ago when it was either Bravo or Andy coming out and saying, we've got 3 announcements for you guys tomorrow. And Tamara did a post. I follow Tamara on her stories. It said like, it had like an orange and like a hashtag RHOC on it. I think that day I think that day the trailer was supposed to come out, because of the 3 announcements, none of them had anything to do with OC. So I think our theory is starting to really check out as far as Heather having something to do with it. Who knows what that was? But
another rumor started over at Bravo and Cocktails. I said another rumor started over at Bravo and Cocktails that is seemingly adding up.
Okay, and so then back to Vicky, I have to say I kind of loved the jump scare. I thought it was funny. And here I am. I came out of Busso Manor pretty anti-Vicky. I just didn't like her vibe that whole show pretty much. But here I am, happy to see Vicky again. And I was thinking about that. And I was thinking about why. And I'm like, oh, I know why. It's because you can't fake chemistry. And Tamara, Vicky, and Shannon have it. I mean, prove me wrong on that one, I think they have chemistry and we like to see it.
Well, I can tell you on a personal level, I don't like Vicky. I just don't like her. I think that she's not a particularly nice person. I think she's a good mother, but I think she's a very self-centered, self-serving person, as so many housewives are. But I don't mind her on the show because she gives us good television. It's not that I'm watching her like, oh, she's the best, I want to hang out with her, right? But she's like a Ramona. Like, I like Ramona more, actually. I think there's something more endearing about Ramona. I just think that Vicky is icky.
By the way, so I had mentioned this earlier that I wanted to come back to something else, OC, that Tamra was actually talking a little bit about on her pod. So we got this email that sounded like Shannon was rekindling with John, her ex. And then we see that they're out together at Family Feud. So why don't you read the email?
From OC, rekindled. Yes, they've rekindled. He missed her and the fame. With the season airing soon, he'll get the attention and perks that come with it. I mean, it seems obvious to me. The trailer, we've already seen that obviously their relationship was having trouble. We know that they broke up. And now she says they aren't back together, but there was an Instagram story of him laying in her bed. Listen, I think if she's happy enough with him, if she likes him as a person, and if they have fun together and she doesn't mind that maybe it's sort of advantageous for him to be with her, then listen, we can't say what's right for her. We know that she had a very unhealthy marriage. So I tend to think that when someone has had an unhealthy marriage, they're kind of conditioned to be used to it. But I wouldn't say we've seen him be mean to her. I just think it's as simple as she's more into him than he is to her.
So when we got this email, because I read them, depending on how busy the work day is, like pretty quickly. And I was like, that can't be about Shannon. Like, what the heck? And because in my head, like Shannon just, as the kids like to say, hard launched her relationship with her kind of newer boyfriend on Instagram, showing him in a picture with her in, I want to say it was Cabo or somewhere in Mexico, but I think it was Cabo, like just a few weeks ago, like around Easter. So when I first read the email, I was like, oh, that doesn't sound right. And then sure enough, that night or soon after, we got the pictures, and there was like another picture. And this is the one that Tamra and Teddy were talking about on their podcast. It was like old friends or something. And it said, it said like hashtag no, we're not together. We're not back together.
Right. Well,
Shannon had posted it.
She's not going to say they're back together right away because they probably are just re-exploring the idea. But I think that she was genuinely into John. I think they had a good thing for a time. And then they had trouble, they broke up. And maybe John got jealous when he saw her with the new guy. And maybe he reached out. And maybe it's just as simple as Shannon being like, well, I'm not really that into this new guy and he's reaching out. So let's go back there. Which, if that's what it is, good for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll maybe he realized when they broke up and he was dating other people, because we also posted, he was out on dates and stuff. Maybe He realized that he wanted to be back with her. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know. I'm sure she'll talk about it when next season rolls around. People did meet them at BravoCon. Sorry to interrupt you. And they said that they seemed to have a really nice chemistry together. So
yeah, I just hope this isn't all for TV, because we'll see through that. You know what I mean? And like, yeah, so we'll see.
But Amanda, and again, I'm over talking. I'm sorry.
You're not.
Ramona said on her podcast, which I had to tune into because 98% of cocktailers didn't. So I listened for you guys. What she said, and what I think a lot of women on these reality shows find, is she said a lot of men that were otherwise interested in her just didn't want to be with her because of the show. And so when you find a guy that you really like and who doesn't mind the show, it's sort of like a catch-22. Is he using me because he likes fame a lot? But then I'll have no one to date because a guy that doesn't want to be on the show and isn't into it won't go out with you at all. So I guess you have to pick your poison.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. That sounds tough for them. I do feel a little bit badly for them, especially when both of them, while in not healthy marriages, either of them started being on the show married and then had to navigate the dating world having been a housewife. Like, that can't be easy. What about the rumors going around about Taylor and Heather Dubrow, Taylor Armstrong and Heather Dubrow feuding? Do we know what that's about?
I forget. I feel like we heard stuff, but whatever it is, I'm so here for it. I think that they would be great. I think it's a great matchup. I think
Yeah,
that it's a fair fight, and I want to see it.
I agree. I agree.
Speaking
Okay,
of
so
two T's,
yeah.
Atlanta. So all the ladies are on their press tour. Amanda, you know I love me some Atlanta ladies. Kenya was asked about Marlo. I don't know if you saw this clip on a talk show, and she sang, "We don't talk about Marlo." Did you see
Yes,
that?
I
Cracking up.
did.
Then we had her and Sheree fighting over which one of them had the most iconic lines. I mean, for me, who's gonna check your boo is one that I personally use all the time. But Kenya's "Don't come for me unless I send for you" is iconic. She
Yep.
she did try to claim "Bye Felicia," which a quick Google search will tell you youngins that don't know that "Bye Felicia" is an informal phrase intended as a dismissive send-off. Yes, I Googled this, where the recipient is rendered so unimportant their name is reduced to Felicia. It's from the movie Friday that Ice Cube was in, and it goes back to 1995. So, Kenya, back in 1995, I do believe you were Miss USA, but you weren't coining phrases.
Okay, I'm sorry, but like people like you and me, we can sing the Juicy Fruit commercial without having seen it in 20 years. We can tell you who Alf is, and you and I both know that Bye Felicia is 100% from the movie Friday. Just like saying all right came from Dazed and Confused. So,
Yes.
but you gotta love Kenya for trying to go for it.
Wait, speaking of which, my daughter, have your kids started talking about Halloween already?
No, thank God.
Oh, it's so annoying. So she started, her and her friend are in the car. We're going home from a sports practice. What else is new? And they're trying to think of what they can be together. And I'm like, why don't you guys be the Doublemint twins? And they looked at me like with the blankest stares I've ever seen. I'm like, yeah, you guys have no idea what I'm talking about. Okay, moving
Oh my
along.
God. That's so cute though. Oh, and thank God mine are not talking about Halloween. One of mine is like starting to age out of Halloween, which is
So
horrifying.
sad.
It's horrifying to me. I think he's got at least another year, but yikes. Okay, so I also listened to Marlowe on Heather McDonald. I haven't caught the two T's quite one yet, but there were, I think, there's some really juicy things that kind of came out on Juicy Scoop. Did you listen?
You know I did. I'm
Yeah.
a juicy scooper, and I didn't realize Marlo was a foster child. I do know she's very involved in charities that work with foster children, but she said, and it was very sad, she said that she hadn't lived with her mom since age 10 because her mother, who is still alive and still a substance abuser. She then touched on raising her nephews. She talked about the backlash she got last season, which we gave her backlash on the pod as well. She admitted it was how she worded it when she said she got rid of them. Like, it wasn't that exactly. But she is raising those boys. She did not say her sister. She just said her sister's going through a tough time.
Right.
So, with the knowledge that her mother is a substance abuser, that's where my mind goes. She didn't confirm that. She shaded Candy's parenting, which I don't like because she's like, oh, Candy's only worried about getting her bag. You know, it's not right to shame successful women, in my opinion.
Don't you feel like though she kind of, I don't know that she was saying it so much from the shady standpoint, because she was saying that Candy's the provider. Candy's got a lot of family who helps, and like I maybe she was being shady, but I kind of also in that same conversation she was talking about not shading other people's businesses, and I didn't take it to be soup. I mean, I guess saying like she's focused on getting the bag could
Right.
be, but I think that if you take it out of context and just listen to that part of it, I think overall she was like, no, Candy's the provider and she does a good job of that. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, a little birdie tells me that both Marlo and Sheree go for Candy hard this season. So there's some bad blood there, which leads me, maybe that's why I read it more shady than if I was listening without that knowledge. Maybe I would have just seen it as slight shade, but I think that there's no love lost between Marlo and Candy.
Yeah, for sure. The other interesting thing that Marlo said in that interview was that she only had just the one very rich boyfriend, not many. rich boyfriends, as I think we've all been kind of led to believe. She also said that she's also been in fashion. She's owned boutiques. And anyway, definitely listen if you haven't had a chance. I thought it was an interesting interview.
I thought it was a very honest interview because what I liked was that she said, listen, I wasn't uber wealthy before I met this guy, and certainly dating him and him being as generous as he was with me did allow me to expand on my businesses, and I had more capital and money to put in. But like, I owned a boutique. That's how I met him. I was working in the boutique that I owned, which I think it was important for her to get that out there, because certainly the ladies have always made the narrative that she's mistress around town with every rich guy, and the fashion thing is all a front. So for me personally, because remember, she's only had her peach 1 year, so we've only caught glimpses of her. And if you haven't listened to Heather McDonald and you want a better idea of who Marlo is and where she comes from, I thought for me it was very informative. And yeah, so
Yeah.
I like Marlo. I'm looking forward to seeing her and
I-
all of them.
Agreed. I want to see more of the Marlo that I like back this season, because there were some things I kind of soured on her with, especially around the boys. But I think her kind of coming on and clarifying that it was a lot more about the wording that she used, that would probably help. So, okay, what about Vanderpump? We know from Andy's tweets and saying, hey, everybody, send me your questions for Kristen Doty. She's going to be on Watch What Happens Live.
I mean, some Finsta sent that to me and I posted it and it was true, which I didn't doubt, because why would a Finsta send that to me unless it was happening?
Right.
The episode, and to use a line from Atlanta, the lies, the lies.
I can hear Candy saying that. The lies.
Lisa seemed to know. And a follower sent me a theory, Amanda, right before we hopped on. And I'm going to not claim this theory as my own, but I'm going to co-sign it as brilliant. And I told her to listen this week because I am going to share it.
Ooh, I'm excited.
So her theory is, she thinks, and we've all suspected, production got wind of his affair. He thinks production told Lisa. Hence, why Lisa questioned Raquel. Now, I'm going to add in, I was thinking to myself, I bet you Raquel admitted it to Lisa off camera, because I can just see Raquel doing that. Lisa has a certain way about her, and Raquel's a weak person. But with that aside, Lisa then had Ken mention it in front of Katie, because Katie and Ariana are business partners and very close friends, and Lisa was being loyal to them. The person said, Lisa plays chess, not checkers. She's 100% involved in this coming out.
Okay, so let's try to figure out when that would have been. This Ken bringing that up in front of Katie. If Sheena got married in August? So this would have been like September-ish, October-ish, the latest of last year. Where is the timeline between October and
March? It's a long time. And okay, we see coming attractions. We see Katie and Lala totally thinking it's a possibility. Like they say, right. I wouldn't put it past them. We see Sheena backing her up wholeheartedly. So there's a world where you can see Ariana hearing Lala and Katie. I mean, they're not going to go to her and be like, your man is fucking your friend. Right. They probably said something like, I don't trust her. But remember, Ariana very much agreed with Sheena that they were unfair to Raquel and they didn't give her any grace and let her suffer her breakup. And the reality is that whether Ariana or Sheena, well, Sheena said it, but whether Ariana wants to say it, there is a part of her that thinks Schwartz is single and he should have respected Katie's boundaries, but Raquel doesn't owe Katie anything. Not only are they not friends, Katie hasn't even been nice to Raquel, which is true. So I think Ariana chose to look at it from that, and I think that she really trusted Sandoval. Now, why she trusted him with the knowledge we now have that he basically had cheated before, she chose not to believe it. I mean, as a woman who's in a relationship, I don't walk around with the assumption that my husband's going to walk around cheating on me, right?
Right.
So I can see where she's coming from. They're together a long time, and it isn't like he was constantly getting caught fooling around.
Well, and their cell phones with cameras are ubiquitous, right? It's everywhere. And so I'm sure in her head, she's like, I mean, if anything ever really happened, I would get receipts too. I mean, if there were ever a doubt in her mind, I don't know. And like, so I was thinking about this too. So I had not heard about the cocktailers theory, which I think is pretty interesting. My theory is we know that each of them had their kind of like little suspicions here and there, right? So we know Allie saw them at the Abbey. We know from hearing now from Brittany and Jax that there was a time where she was going to go pick up Rochelle, but then Tom was there too, but no Ariana. And that each person had their own like little suspicion and said something to one of the two of them. And that Tom, especially Tom, is such a master gaslighter that not only did he deny it, but he got angry and so mad at them and told them that they were idiots for even suspecting it. Like, I think, without full blown proof, right? That they were like, or maybe something was a little fishy, but they're like, but it wasn't, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought, whatever it is, right?
Right.
Now everyone is especially extra pissed off at Tom and Rochelle because, again, they told them they are idiots, and nobody likes to be just blatantly lied to, like all of them have been for so long. And now they also are like, I can't trust anything you've ever told me because of how much you were, or anything really our friendship was based on, because of the fact that you guys were both lying to us this entire time.
I mean, absolutely. And we actually have something hot off the presses. I don't know if you saw this email come in while we were talking, Amanda.
I did not.
Email Dunzo. Subject, broken up or question. Sandoval is telling people that work at Schwartz and Sandy's that he and Raquel have broken up. She isn't taking his calls. Apparently, this isn't the first time they've broken up since March when Sandoval hit, so it's possible they'll reconcile. Either way, Sandoval's pretty broken up about it.
Can you take calls in rehab?
I can't. And then there was the rumor we saw on Dumois that he was at Miraval, she was at Miraval. We heard they were at Canyon Ranch. They took a break from the thing. He's still claiming she's at a mental health facility. James Kennedy on Watch What Happens Live last night was it. He's like, did you notice anything? Andy says to him. He goes, Andy, everything. He goes, Raquel. He starts imitating. I love when James imitates American accents. It's so good. A lot of people are saying it was totally about the pasta. I just think James is such a tightly wound ball of energy that when he's able to let his freak flag fly, he just waves it.
Right.
I don't think it's about I think it's sometimes about the pasta with him, but I just think that's his energy. I think Schwartz, I have to talk about this. The scene where he got the drink thrown on him, he deserved that. The scene where he went in on Lala, and then when she walks away, he's like, oh, Lala, come back. You're a good mom.
He's such a good wing. He's such a fucking doofus.
Can you imagine what Katie has dealt with? And that fact that everyone says she's the bad guy, she was projecting this energy because she was getting such nastiness at home, but they were married. What's she going to go out and say, I'm verbally abused by the guy that everyone thinks is a basset hound?
Right. Or as Lala said, she's like, I feel like I'm yelling at a farm animal.
But did you see how there was that switch and he got so disgusting and nasty to her?
Yes, I did. But they both did, to be honest. Like Lala yelling at him that he's broke in the middle of a restaurant like that. Like, not cool either. Like, I feel like they both were really crossing the line on that one. But
that's true.
I am so entertained by Lala, so she gets the pass for me.
I know. I agree. And listen, okay, I think that the more transparent about Lala that she is about her own mistakes and saying like, I did a lot of stupid things. I was a mistress. Like she has to own that because you are allowed to grow, you are allowed to change. And you know what? In 10 years, I might be saying the same thing to Raquel, although I doubt it because she wasn't friends with Randall's ex-wife.
Right.
But say all this to say, cocktailers, we are not stopping talking about Vanderpump Rules anytime soon. It's too good. Nope. It's too much. I do think production knew. I do think that Lisa facilitated that coming out. I do think that when it didn't fully come out by rapping, even though it was all there right in front of us, there was a push there to get it out. Was it Raquel? Was it Raquel? Did they say, send this? Ariana's got his phone. We don't know and we'll never know. I don't believe Sandoval wanted it out.
I don't either.
We can already see him trying to set up the breakup and stuff. He didn't want it out the way it came out.
Yeah. I mean, that's everybody, guys. Like, everyone knows, right? That whole taco truck or whatever bagel truck conversation where Tom and Tom can't even really look at each other. And so they put their sunglasses on because it's so badly acted. That's all Tom Sandoval saying, okay, look, I want you to help me start to set up for why I'm breaking up with Ariana, and scene.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, cocktailers. It's been
real. We're donezo for this week, guys. But thanks again for hanging in there with us with our echoes and our...
So on the plus side, this is going to be hot tea because you're going to hear this Saturday morning. And we've just recorded. On the negative side, we're both having work done to our house. So we know we're echoing. We're a work in progress. We're like Jax Taylor. We're just going to say that for the next 5 years.
Always, right? I think you should always be a work in progress.
Always.
Nobody should think that they're a masterpiece exactly the way they are. And I think we should think about that with the pod. We can always make it better.
Sure can. All right, guys. Till next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye. Thank you guys so much for listening. Just want to ask you guys a favor, just getting kicked off. So many people have been asking us to do this podcast. So please do subscribe. And if you've subscribed, go to your podcast app and hit those 3 little dots to share with your friends, but only friends who like good tea, because the ones who don't care about tea, then forget them. And don't forget, find us on Instagram at bravoandcocktails_. And check out the website because some great tea gets put there daily that would get us kicked off of Instagram. So thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye, guys. See you next time.